Welcome to Preseason. We're always looking to level up our core game experience in new and exciting ways. This year, we'll be making gameplay changes aimed at evolving the support role, refining the jungler position, and polishing the overarching game flow of Summoner's Rift. We're looking for your feedback to help make the game even better before the 2014 season. We believe all players should experience a meaningful endgame fantasy, no matter what they play. Most of our roles and positions are already successful at this, but there were a few who typically fell behind the curve late game, specifically supports and junglers. Let's talk about supports first. Taking down an enemy nexus doesn't come cheap. Winning the Vision War often meant that individual players, usually supports, didn't have that extra gold to buy the items they wanted. Here, we're introducing new components to the Vision game that'll both increase strategy and diffuse responsibility for warding. You'll encounter new vision granting items this season called trinkets. Free to purchase and store in their own item slot, each trinket offers something a little different, like revealing and disabling nearby wards, scouting a remote area, or placing a free ward. Because there's no cost to picking them up, trinkets are an easy and accessible way for everyone to take part in the Vision game. Another major change to Vision is that each player will have a maximum number of wards they can place on the map at any time. Our goal is to challenge players to make careful decisions about warding, as well as encourage the act of securing map vision as a true team effort. Beyond alleviating some of the pressure behind Vision, we're also providing supports alternative means of income through masteries and itemization. Several items designed for supports will now grant additional gold, making it easier for them to reach their endgame fantasy. We're also adjusting the way champions gain experience throughout a game, as we're making it easier to gain levels as you approach level 18. This should allow duo laners more freedom to ward and roam, while still being able to keep pace with the rest of their team without the fear of falling behind. Lastly, we want support players to feel like their contributions to a teamfight are as impactful as a high damage mage or a damage soaking tank. To help drive this change, we're introducing support ability scaling so that the utility of their skills increases with ability power. Buffs and debuffs will increase in effectiveness as support scale throughout a game, allowing them to feel like they're growing in power alongside other roles. Switching to junglers, we've seen successful high-utility support playstyles throughout Season 3, but for carry-style junglers that rely on damage for their contribution in a teamfight, we've identified many of the same opportunities for improvement that we found with supports. In terms of jungler income, we've added a new camp to each side, providing more potential jungle paths and gold outside of lanes. We're also adding new items that allow junglers to customize their builds to match their playstyle, whether they're staying in the jungle or ganking enemy lanes. To ensure that a jungler's levels stay consistent with the rest of their team, we're also introducing neutral monster levels that scale with the average champion level in-game, providing higher experience and gold bounties as they level. By increasing income and experience, junglers should have more opportunities to earn the gold necessary to build big-ticket items. So no matter what style you're looking to play, you'll be able to maximize your presence in teamfights and in the game overall. So far, we've gone over changes that impact particular roles and positions, but we're also making an effort to improve the overall feel and pace of the game. In addition to adding another jungle camp, we're also doing some light yard work around the Rift by cleaning up the size and shape of brush areas around the map. These changes should help reduce confusion around ward placement, as well as fog of war issues around certain choke points. To reduce the snowballing potential behind rushing down global objectives, we're adjusting the benefits from killing outer turrets, so they're more rewarding for the champions who destroy them and have less of an effect on other lanes. Similarly, destroying an inhibitor will no longer make all of your minions stronger, just the ones pushing that lane. This should give teams that lose an inhibitor the ability to capitalize on an epic comeback, instead of having to worry about defending other lanes. Finally, the golden experience rewards from Dragon will now scale over time and give greater rewards throughout the game. The intent is that Dragon will be a hotly contested objective for teams even in the later stages where it's been considered obsolete. Combined with the other top-level changes we've discussed so far, we envision a more dynamic game experience in the upcoming season. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. To learn the full details of our preseason changes, including those not covered in the video, check out the rest of our preseason content and keep an eye out for more updates as we continue to gather your feedback. Welcome to the Preseason Spotlight. In this video, we're going to introduce the biggest changes coming for the jungle, objectives, and items in the 2015 preseason. You can think of this as a high-level overview. If you want more details, hit up the preseason microsite and the patch notes. Before we get to the crugs and grumps of what's changing, let's talk about the big focus for 2015, strategic diversity. In other words, it's giving you more paths to victory, so your in-game decisions matter just as much as the champions that you pick. Alright, jungle. Important thing here is jungle diversity. Sounds an awful lot like last year's preseason, but we're taking a different approach for 2015. We've got new item paths, Smite's got some shiny upgrades, and we're making monsters tougher to better differentiate between your Warwicks and your Rami. Also, there's a crab. First, spirit items are gone. Hunter's Machete now upgrades into 4 new items, each changing Smite in a different way. Stalker's Blade is gank-focused, letting you smite enemy champions for damage and a slow. Poacher's Knife is for the counter junglers, giving you bonuses when smiting down camps on the enemy side of the jungle. Skirmisher's Saber is a dueling upgrade. Smite an opponent and gain a combat buff against them for a few seconds. Finally, Ranger's Trailblazer is your farm-focused pickup, turning your smite into an AoE and restoring health and mana on use. You can also buy enchantments, ensuring you get the endgame stats you need. Be sure to read up on those because we are not explaining them here. We're also adding bonuses for smiting monsters. Smite the raptors to get a true sight buff when you're spotted by a ward. Merc Wolves recruit a ghost that provides vision. Gromp hooks you up with a poisonous thornmail. Krugs let you stun monsters every few attacks. And smiting red or blue restores health or mana. You can probably figure out which is which. Finally, under the jungle category, we've got your new favorite camp, the Rift Scuttler. This tanky crustacean actively avoids combat, but if you bring him down, he gives vision of either the Baron or Dragon Pit and a speed shrine for all your teammates. Thanks, Crab. Next up, let's talk about objectives. They're changing, strategically. First, turrets. There are new regenerating shields on the inner turret which spread to nearby allies, providing extra safety against sieging. And yes, what you're seeing, that's a laser. This is a new change for the inhibitor turret, and it slows and causes whoever it hits to deal less damage, to help with those pesky split-pushing Jaxes. Baron's a badass now, instead of a late-game snack. Not only will you have to actually pay attention when taking down Baron, but when you finally do, Baron buff now lets you recall twice as fast while also giving your nearby minions super siege power. Dragon and turrets have always had similar rewards. Gold. To create strategic differences, Dragon now no longer gives gold, but grants a permanent stacking buff on kill. The buffs go up as your team secures more dragons, adding up to the Giga Stack bonus. Kill 5 dragons for your team, and you're gonna hit like a monster truck wearing a suit of larger, cooler monster trucks. This year, we focused on strategic items that benefit your team more than just giving you an individual pile of stats. First, there are new elixirs. Ruin gives bonus damage to towers and boosts your split pushing. Sorcery gives ability power and true damage on hit. Iron buffs your size and boosts the movement speed of any ally who follows you. And Wrath gives attack damage and some lifesteal. Each of these is tailored to your specific needs at any point in the game. Second, meet Righteous Glory. Stats aside, Righteous Glory's active gives a big movement speed bonus when running towards those super annoying disengaged teams. After a few seconds, you'll emit a massive slowing pulse that hits all nearby enemy champions. Sadly, the movement speed bonus does not scale up with how annoying the enemy team is. In short, the philosophy we're pursuing is around the ways you look to win and the paths to victory your team can take. And this is just the beginning. Preseason is a time when we can experiment heavily with League to bring it to a better place, and there are a lot of changes we haven't mentioned in the video. Be sure to check out the microsite and the patch notes for more details, but for now, this is your Preseason Spotlight signing off. Welcome to the 2016 Preseason Spotlight. Our big focus this year is making each individual game of League feel unique and awesome. From which masteries you choose, the items you buy, and what marksman you pick,
We want your decisions to meaningfully impact how each game plays out. Let's kick things off with the changes to Marksman. We're adjusting Marksman in Preseason to take advantage of their shiny new items, but 6 champions are getting considerable changes aimed at making them distinct. Quinn's all about map mobility. On practically no cooldown, Quinn can call on her Valor Valet for quick trips around the map. We like to think of her as League's firefighter, able to speedily counter an annoying split pusher or whiz across the rift to help a fleeing ally. It's all in a day's work for Demasia's wings.
Just like hunting fresher keys.
Graves demolishes squishy targets, trading range for explosive close combat. His shotgun now acts like one, replacing his basic attack with a blockable spread of buckshot. He's also sporting a new Q, End of the Line, which deals heavy damage to enemies trapped near walls or in tight corridors.
Don't die yet.
Corky's damage is the most magical of the marksmen. His basic attacks now split their damage between magical and physical. Plus, he's got a new passive. Every few minutes, Corky's pit crew will drop off a payload at his base, granting him a huge move speed boost and transforming his Valkyrie into an audacious bombing run for some daring teamfight maneuvers. Kog'Maw was always your late-game hyper carry. Now he's your late-game giga carry. Bio-Arcane Barrage doubles his attack speed as well as the attack speed cap, making him the only champion to be able to attack up to 5 times a second. That does mean the Void Puppy has to stand still to take full advantage of his terrifying attack speed though, so, you know, counterplay. Miss Fortune's retaking her throne as the markswoman to call when you want to win a team fight. Each level in bullet time adds additional waves of bullets, which now scale with crit. We've also loaded her up with a new passive, Love Tap, which gives the bounty hunter bonus damage the first time she attacks a new target.
Guns blazing.
Last but not least, Caitlyn is the sharpshooting siege master. Yordle Snaptrap now has ammo charges, letting her pack up and move her zone to towers, objectives, or anywhere that might need law enforcement on the fly. If an enemy steps on one, or you hit them with 90 caliber net, your next basic attack against your victim becomes a super long-range headshot.
Nowhere to hide.
Following up on all these marksman changes, we've tweaked their existing toys and given them some new ones. Similar to our AP item changes earlier this year, we wanted to give marksmen a bunch of itemization options outside of just deal more damage. If you rely on spamming abilities, check out the new Essence Reaver. It doesn't just improve your mana regen, it also grants you additional cooldown reduction based on your crit chance, leading to some ridiculously explosive fights. Meanwhile, Phantom Dancer has some new bonuses that improve its dueling capabilities, and the AoE bolts from Runon's Hurricane can crit, so everyone gets to be Jinx. We're boosting Static Shift's Wave Clear and introducing Rapid Fire Cannon, which charges up to unload a long-ranged, high-damage shot onto a single target. And yes, that also works on structures. There are a ton of items we don't have time to cover, but before we move on, let's talk a little about starting items. Along with Doran's classic collection, we've got a few more added to the mix. Cull provides bonus gold for each minion killed. The Dark Seal provides an aggressive option for those looking to snowball, while new refillable potions give multiple avenues of sustain to fit your particular playstyle. We're making some changes to Vision that make buying and placing wards more of a team-oriented objective and less like upkeep. Supports now have 2 possible paths to take their gold income items. They can either upgrade into their final form, powerful active and all, or they can combine with Sightstone to free up an extra item slot. And since you always forgot to do it, trinkets now upgrade automatically for everyone throughout the game. We're also removing stealth wards from the shop, so teams will have to lean more heavily on their trinkets and pink wards to get vision control. When wards die, they now leave behind debris for a few minutes. Try and find patterns in your enemy's wards and use that knowledge to crush their spirits. They'll never see it coming. Historically, early game objectives have been focused around the bottom half of the rift, leaving top lane a lonely slugfest. We're mixing things up a bit this year. Meet the Rift Herald. Herald is a neutral monster who squats inside the Baron Pit for the first 20 minutes. It gives top laners something to miss when they teleport away, and a reason to try and dominate the top side of the map. The champion who strikes the killing blow on it will gain a buff focused on early game power and pushing down the lane. Taking down the Rift Herald is usually a two-person affair, so team up with your jungler and serve Herald their eviction notice. We're entirely reworking the mastery system. We're giving you fewer choices overall, but making every choice really matter. In each mastery tree, you'll start by putting points into some simple stat increases, followed by a few unique effects to choose between. This pattern continues until the final keystone tier, which seriously impacts your gameplay. One keystone could see you choosing between a burst of speed whenever chunking out enemies, or an AoE Nova every few attacks, offering assassins or bursty mages either the extra reach they need to close a kill, or the mobility to escape after the job's done. The keystones are a big choice, but you'll only get one. This is just the beginning of our season-long changes to League of Legends, so your feedback is important to make sure we're on the right track. Check out the microsite for the full list of changes and get out there and choose your own adventure. Welcome to the 2017 Preseason Spotlight. Assassins aren't the only ones getting changes this preseason. This spotlight is about all the other changes hitting the Rift. Plants are bringing new life to the jungle, and we've got a suite of changes to stealth, as well as armor pen and support items. First up, we're introducing a series of interactive plants we're calling the Living Jungle. Each plant has a chance to spawn in a number of predetermined locations throughout the river and jungle, and destroying them gives you a unique effect. Blast cones only grow in the jungle's quadrants, knocking away any nearby units when destroyed. They're useful for creative getaways following a successful invade, or simply hopping over jungle walls. Scryer's bloom grows on the ramps between the jungle and the river, releasing pollen across the map away from the attacker when destroyed. This pollen reveals enemy units and wards, allowing you to clear vision and take control of the area. Lastly, honey fruit grows exclusively in the river, dropping a bushel of restorative fruit on the ground. Each fruit restores health and mana, but at the cost of a minor slow to the champion feasting. Taking a look at the rest of the jungle, we've decided to remove the bonuses from smiting monsters. These buffs did a lot of good, especially in the early game, but weren't holding up as interesting choices to make throughout the game. For the many junglers who relied on specific buffs to clear, we've made a tuning pass to the jungle's inhabitants, and added a heal to smite to help make ends meet in their absence. Finally, we've made some minor changes to the camps to accentuate their beautiful personalities. You'll find more baby raptors and krugs to fight, Gromp's developed an attitude problem, and the little bufflings that used to live with red and blue have grown up and left the nest. You already know that we're updating assassins, but while we're on the subject of people who sneakily murder you, we're rethinking the way vision and stealth interact. Stealth can now be divided into two categories, invisibility and camouflage. Invisibility is the stealth you're used to. While invisible, enemies can't see or target you until the effect ends. Camouflage is the alternative version of stealth. It makes you unseen to the naked eye and stealth wards unless you get too close to an enemy champion. Evelyn's passive, Shadow Walk, is a perfect example of camouflage, and now a few other champions have the ability as well. Vision wards are being replaced with control wards. In addition to granting vision, control wards reveal and disable enemy wards and traps, helping you clear and control an area as long as you're willing to defend it. Control wards will reveal camouflage champions, but will not reveal invisible ones. Let's talk armor pen. Flat armor penetration is gone, and we're introducing a new stat called lethality. It's pretty much the same, but it scales with your opponent's level, bypassing more armor the higher their level is. This will make you slightly less bursty for lower leveled opponents, but gives you a little extra power when you're falling behind. We're also busting out 2 new items for assassins, Edge of Night and Poacher's Dirk. Edge of Night grants attack damage, lethality, out of combat movement speed, and magic resist, but you really want to buy it for its active, Veil. When activated, you'll briefly channel to gain a spell shield. The other new item is the jungle-focused Poacher's Dirk, which transforms into a full-blown serrated dirk after you've stolen enough large monsters from the enemy's jungle. We're also adjusting a few other assassin items. Duskblade now grants lethality and out-of-combat movement speed, and it's trading its old passive in for 2 new ones, Blackout and Night Stalker. Blackout grants you True Sight when you've been spotted by an enemy ward, and Night Stalker grants you bonus true damage when you attack after being unseen. It's the perfect tool for turning the lights out and then turning their lights out. For supports, we've got a change to Aegis of the Legion, aimed at making it more of a situational item instead of the must-buy it is today. After 8 whole years, it no longer grants passive magic resist to nearby allies. By nerfing Aegis, we've made room for 2 new support items, Knight's Vow and Redemption. Knight's Vow grants defensive stats and the ability to designate an allied champion as your partner. When near your partner, you'll gain armor and movement speed, redirecting a portion of their damage taken to yourself, and then healing for a portion of the damage they deal. Redemption passively boosts the power of your heals and shields. It also comes with an active effect that lets you target any area on the map. After a delay, it heals allies and damages enemies in that area. You can even cast it while dead. No, really, you can do that. If you're still watching, we know what you want. You're here for the mastery changes. We saved the biggest change just for you. We're replacing Strength of the Ages with a new keystone, Courage of the Colossus. It grants you a shield when you inflict crowd control on an enemy. And that's it. That's the big mastery change. That's the one. Thanks for watching the 2017 Preseason Spotlight. There are some smaller changes we didn't cover here, so take a look at the full list if you're craving more details.
Hey everyone, want to cover our gameplay plans for this year, so let's get into it. In Season 2019, our big projects are focused mostly on exploring new spaces in League, rather than projects like Runes Reforged or class and itemization updates, which were mainly fixing up parts of the game that hadn't aged well. But first, it's the beginning of the season and ranks updating. We've got new placements, tiers, splits, and rewards like ranked armor, and position ranks are in regional previews. You can find all the details in the client. Now let's talk about the future. In 2018, we began explorations into new ways to play League of Legends, like our Nexus Blitz PvP tests and Odyssey Extraction PvE game mode. We heard your interest here and want to continue diving into both PvP and PvE spaces in 2019. This will include more new experiences, as well as improvements to existing modes we think could be potential frontrunners with a little more work. With Snowdown and All-Stars, we recently wrapped up a second test of Nexus Blitz over the holidays, and we'll let you know what our plans are once we've finished going over those results. Should be pretty soon. Up next, we'll be updating AR-Earth this Lunar Revel with a few new improvements, like the reroll bench from ARAM and the Catapult of Champions from Nexus Blitz. Try it out and let us know what you think. Season 2019 has only just started, but I wanted to talk about how we introduce major changes to the game with preseason and midseason. Preseason's been a thing for a while. It's the time when the ranked climb is off, so it makes sense to save the biggest changes to League for this window. For the past few years, we've also used midseason as a second opportunity to introduce major gameplay fixes and improvements. But midseason has always come with a trade-off. Dropping this much disruption in the middle of ranked creates a lot of stress, and taking a step back, it isn't worth it. In recent years, we've gotten better at shipping larger changes in regular patches throughout the season, though we'll admit we pushed this too far in the first half of 2018, so a dedicated window is less valuable than before. We also think that if we spend less time putting together a big mid-season, we could actually go harder on preseason and make it even more impactful. So, we'll be sunsetting mid-season as a moment for big gameplay evolution, and instead expect to see some of those larger rune, map, and item changes in smaller chunks, sprinkled throughout normal patches where they make sense. And meanwhile, the preseason team's already working in full throttle. We're still in early exploration, but the direction we're most excited for right now is evolving the way your Summoner's Rift matches play out. We're still committed to Clash as we believe League's most fun when playing with a team of friends. Clash has been on a bit of a journey, and our current plan is to aim for launch earlier this year while taking the time to make sure it runs without a hitch in each region. Much like Ranked, Clash will also have seasonal themes where you can accrue victory points across faction themes, so Demacia Cup, Piltover Cup, etc. Thanks for watching, please give us your feedback, and see you on the Rift.
Mythic Forge unlocks all new ways to master your favorite champions. Now with Mythic items, you have more builds, playstyles, and team strategies to choose from, which means more variety from game to game. You can find these Mythic items, as well as new and updated legendaries, in the fully redesigned item shop. Here, the recommended tab simplifies item buying no matter who you're playing or who you're playing against, serving you suggestions based on your current item build and team matchup. Discover a host of new mythics, legendaries, and more over in the All Items tab. Here you can filter items by stats, class, popularity, or price, and get fast access to consumables, boots, and player inventory in the quick buy sidebars. Each game you'll choose one mythic item to form the core of your build and adapt your champion to whatever dangers lie ahead. Whether you need added protection while roaming solo, require some extra mobility, or want to crank up the damage, Mythics provide your champ a new level of customization, meaning your item build has more impact on every game. The same goes for any class. Mid lane mages looking for some extra setup power, assassins picking off enemies one by one, or bruisers who like to bully lane and get away with it. With new high-powered items and a fully streamlined shop, this preseason brings everything you need to level up your game. Learn more about all Mythic Forge updates at the links below.
Reworked keystones, drakes, and debut mechanics? The new season means new features. My name is Freak, and this is the Preseason 2022 Spotlight. Soaring into Preseason 2022, the Hextech and Chemtech Drakes will be joining the roster of Elemental Drakes on Summoner's Rift with a horde of new effects. The Hextech Drake is powering up for her debut, but that's not the only thing she's powering. When the Hextech Rift dominates the map, Hex Gates will allow your team to warp to key locations. Slaying the Hextech Drake will grant additional ability haste and attack speed. Capturing the Hextech Soul will grant your basic attacks and abilities a chain lightning effect on hit that slows enemies. Landing alongside her sister, the Chemtech Drake isn't actually here to power anything, but she is here to overpower the map with what's that smell? If the Chemtech Rift consumes the map, it'll create gas zones that camouflage users as long as they're inside. Vision is murky within the gas, so regular wards won't grant vision of enemy champions within the zones. Try control wards instead. Slaying the Chemtech Drake will grant your team bonus damage at low health, and if you manage to get your hands on a Chemtech Soul, it'll grant your team a brief life after death. They say second chances are hard to come by, so make it count. We don't want to drag on, so while the Drakes make themselves at home, let's switch gears to talk about objective bounties. Objective bounties activate when a team falls sufficiently behind their opponents. This is a new mechanic that grants more strategic options, allowing you to turn a match around by taking objectives. Once activated, objectives are highlighted on the minimap for both teams. If the team that's behind successfully takes a highlighted objective, every member of their team will receive additional gold. Want to know what to spend that hard-earned gold on? The devs are adding a number of mythic and legendary items to the shop to add more itemization options. These new items should allow for more choices for champion classes, including new mythic items for mages looking to survive and make the most out of their abilities, as well as tanks who want to lead the charge. New legendary items also join the fray, including those that take a side of health with that extra mana, expedite the finishing blow, and bust out your ultimates in record time. Play around with these different items to see which suits your playstyle. If you're looking to strategize before the match begins, Preseason will be introducing a few reworked keystones. Get ready to be inspired, or precise. The choice is yours. All this and more will be coming to a Rift near you in Preseason 2022, but we couldn't fit it all in here. If you want to learn more about the Preseason updates, check out the links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the Rift. These wilds are dangerous, so there's no time for small talk. Let's dive into Preseason 2023. There's no containing this volatile reaction. Chemtech Drake is back with some major changes coming off of last year. Each Chem Drake kill grants tenacity, healing, and shields. Claiming Chem Soul grants bonus damage and damage reduction when low on health. When Chem Drake takes over the map, chemicals will mutate the jungle plants to give them new abilities and effects. Honeyfruit is enhanced to give a small shield without slowing. Stalker's Bloom gives move speed and reduces revealed wards to 1 HP. And Blast Cone gets blastier. But the genetically modified plant life isn't all that's coming next season. A foray into the forest is more fun with friends. Nailed it. Traditional jungle items have been replaced with new companions that evolve as the game ticks on and grant unique buffs in their final form. You can progress their evolution by giving them treats, which are acquired slowly over time and more quickly by killing monsters. But you'll find more than just animal allies along these trails. Recommended jungle pathing will now show on your minimap for your first clear, perfect for first-time junglers looking to learn the ropes. Pathing will vary with your champ pick and adapt based on player data every patch. With all these new friend-focused updates, you may now refer to us as League of Friendship. And no, this is not up for debate. We're bringing some big improvements to the number of ways you can sync with your team to sink the enemy. We've expanded the ping wheel to include new options like hold, push, bait, and all in. While the vision wheel now has vision cleared and need vision. Better still, we've added off-screen ping indicators to help with map awareness and control. We're also introducing an objective voting system that'll ease conflict when it comes to making big plays, or not, on the Rift. Now your top laner soloing Baron is a thing of the past, we hope. Start saving your pennies for new and reborn items coming to a shop near you. New mythic items fit for top laners and tanks are stocking the shelves. But all that really matters is Rod of Ages is back. That's it. That's the update. Rod of Ages is back. Mid laners rejoice. All right, fine. I'll actually do my job. We'll give you the rest of it. 3 new durable tank boosting items are joining the mythic ranks. Returning and updated items include Rod of Ages and Spear of Shojin, and as usual, several other items have been updated, so you should definitely check out the patch notes to get the full details. This ain't an infomercial. Hit the Rift running in Season 2023, and get to know the preseason changes coming in patch 12.22. Hope they buffed Tier the Goddess.
Out with the old, in with the new. Welcome one and all to Season 2024. We've got quite a few changes to share, from terrain adjustments to new monsters and items. Ready to see what's coming? Let's get into it. Wait, where are we? Oh, it's top lane. These walls are different, and would you look at that? The brush is now in the middle of the river. Well, that'll make for a trickier gank path from jungle, so you top laners can focus more on your lane opponent instead of hungry junglers. We've got terrain changes across the entire map actually, like in mid lane. The brush is farther back from the lane now, and we've adjusted the walls to both red and blue side for better symmetry. Overall, these adjustments should make it a little safer to play a variety of champions in mid lane, especially those mages with 0 dashes. Speaking of safety, we've also changed the walls opposite Baron and Dragon Pit for a bit more security while you're moving between lanes through the jungle. Finally, in bot lane, there's a new gank path on red side to make the map more symmetrical. We've also shifted the brush to the middle of the river so both teams can more reasonably fight for vision control. Look alive down there. New jungle paths aren't the only thing to keep your eye on this season. A new Void monster has found its way to the Rift. During the early game, a camp of 3 Void grubs will now spawn inside the Baron Pit. When you attack a grub, smaller Void mites appear to join the fight. Killing one of the Void grubs grants a permanent buff to your entire team that deals damage over time when attacking turrets. For every grub you slay, the buff becomes more powerful. After the first 3 grubs are killed, 3 more will spawn a few minutes later. If your team manages to kill all 6, then you unlock the maximum buff. When you attack a turret, you'll apply the damage over time and spawn some Void mites of your own to help take it down. Keep in mind that these grubs are an incremental camp, not all or nothing. So slaying even 1 can give your team a small boost and keep the enemy from collecting all 6. At 14 minutes, any remaining grubs disappear and the beloved Rift Herald enters the game with a fresh new look. Maybe they're born with it, maybe it's the hideously vile influence of the Void from whence they came. If you slay the Herald, you can summon them as before to march down lane and whack turrets. Or, any member of your team can hop on board to play Summoner's Drift, steering the monster as they charge forward like a battle sled. Ramming Herald into a turret this way deals some extra damage, and you can run into enemy champions to damage and knock them up. On collision with terrain or a turret, the driver pops out nearby, and the ability to steer goes on cooldown. This cooldown resets if you hit a turret, but takes longer if you hit a wall. All aboard the Shelly Demolition Train. Now let's talk about... what was that? Baron Nashor, Voidborn Tyrant of the Rift, is back and badder than ever before. When he enters the game, you'll know it. Baron takes one of 3 forms when he emerges. Each form provides the same classic buff, but alters how he fights and determines the shape of his pit. But wait, there's more. With Baron's entrance, the Void's influence spreads across the map, infusing the Scuttlecrab, Brambleback, and Sentinel with dark power. Voidborn Scuttlecrab becomes tankier and tougher to kill. On death, she sends out a massive burst like a Scryer's Bloom, revealing all enemy champions and wards in a large area. Bet you didn't see that coming. Likewise, the Voidborn red and blue buff require a little more muscle to take down, but in exchange, they grant the buff to every teammate who's alive at the time. So no more fighting over who gets blue buff, alright? Speaking of cool new buffs, let's talk Infernal Rift. All versions of the Elemental Rift have been refreshed to accommodate the new base terrain, with Mountain Rift losing a few walls that didn't quite fit anymore, but we've changed up Infernal Rift completely. We don't have gameplay footage quite ready at this time, so let me paint you a word picture. Instead of a burned out fire escape, Infernal Rift will scatter infernal cinders all across the map. Picking up these cinders gives a small burst of move speed and a stat buff. On death, half your collected cinders explode out for others to snag for themselves. I mean, you weren't using them anymore, right? As in years past, we've made some item adjustments for this new season. Like, a lot of adjustments. For one, mythic items are out. Gone. Poof. In their place, we're adding, removing, and updating a bunch of items across several champion classes. Mages, assassins, tanks, enchanters, fighters, and marksmen will all notice quite a few changes when they gear up this season. For example, the new Storm Surge for those AP assassins and burst mages who really want to shock the enemy. In addition, we've overhauled the support quest items. Supports now have a singular item they pick up at the start of the game with minimal stats. You earn gold with this item by executing minions of any type for a flat amount, or hitting enemy champions with abilities or attacks. At the middle tier, you unlock refilling wards as before. And when you reach the final tier, you can choose between several upgraded items to suit your playstyle. Whether you prefer protecting your carry or more aggressive support tactics, we've got you covered. While you're running around the new map with new monsters and new items, you should keep an eye out for old grudges. We've added a handful of champion quests that will trigger when certain champs are in the same game. Defeating your quest rival on the enemy team will grant a tiny buff. While it won't significantly impact the game, it'll be a nice reward for your Renekton mains to finally stick it to Nasus. Many of the changes we've made this year are aimed at making gameplay mechanics and systems easier to understand. This goal includes a lot of adjustments mentioned previously, or smaller changes like simplified tooltip language. We also just want to make it feel better to be on the Rift. Listen closely and you might notice the music changing throughout the game based on where you are or what you're doing. Baron boss music, anyone? And now you can celebrate or commiserate with your teammates in a language everyone understands, the fist bump. Okay, that was a lot to cover. In summary, new terrain means new gank paths in every lane, Void Grubs are now a thing, you can now drive the Rift Herald into battle, Baron looks scarier, and the Void is everywhere. Infernal Rift is totally changing, there's a bunch of new items, some champs are bringing their beef onto the Rift, and fist bumps explode into sparkles and fireworks. Phew, got all that? Good. If you want all the nitty-gritty details, we unpack everything in the article linked below. So study up, friends, and we'll see you in January when Season 2024 kicks off.